Hi there. My name is Nancy Kilbride, and I'm the team leader for a program called SNAP, which stands for Supports and Networking for Adoption and Permanency Planning. And I'm here with a couple of wonderful people who are going to share some of their adoption journey with us today. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'll start. My name is Dave Audy. I'm 55 and we live in Kelowna. And we've been fostering for 13 years, I think, somewhere around there. So, yeah.
And I'm Kathy Audy, Dave's wife. And we are also the parents of two beautiful daughters who we've adopted from the ministry.
Awesome. And what are the names and ages of your daughters?
Our oldest daughter, Brianna, is 13, and our youngest, Violet, is 11 and a half.
Awesome. And so they came to you through fostering first, and then you began a journey to adoption. Could you give us a quick summary of how long that journey took with each child and some of the reasons why it took the time that it did?
Sure. Brianna first moved in with us when she was 13 months old. And originally she came to Kelowna because her mom was in a treatment center. And there was hope that her mother would be able to, get her handle back on things and that the family would be reunited. So we fostered her for a couple of years until they got the CCO order, which is the continuing custody order. And after that, then they had to explore biological family ties. And Brianna has some siblings who were raised. One was raised by bio dad. One was raised by grandparents. Or two were raised by grandparents, and one was adopted by another family. So that took some time to explore all those options. And she became a part of our family when she was 4, a permanent part. And then Violet, we actually started doing respite with when she was only 7 months old. She was part-time at her mom's and part-time with us. And at 10 months, things went downhill with her mom, and she moved in full-time with us. She had a brother who was being raised by a grandparent at that time, who was eventually surrendered, I don't like saying surrendered. Okay, so we'll start that one again.
That's okay.
Edit. Okay, our second daughter, Violet, moved in with us when she was 7 months old. We were doing respite for her mom, half-time with us, half-time with her biological mom. And at 10 months, she moved in full-time. Shortly thereafter, her biological brother, half-brother, who was being raised by grandparents, also moved into foster care. And that was a bit of a journey because about 1.5 years after she moved in, they actually went through an adoption process with a different family, which unfortunately did break down. And then, so then Violet returned to us. Unfortunately, her brother had behaviors which were not in our strengths to help him with, and he went to a different foster home. And then, there was a number of years when the ministry looked to place the kids together in a home, and we just hung out. And it wasn't until she was 9 that she was formally adopted by our family.
We would have her brother over for respite and lots of visits with her brother as well. And that's how we're able to determine, it wasn't really in the cards for us to be able to adopt him. Didn't really fit with our family dynamics. So we weren't really the first choice because, again, their ministry policy is always to adopt biologicals together. So fortunately for us, we were able to adopt her without during that process. So.
Okay, thank you. A long journey.
Very long journey.
Long journey. Yeah.
Our hearts had claimed her long before the paperwork caught up.
And so what effect did having the paperwork make?
I think a finality for us, it's like, because there was kind of that insured until the policy, we didn't know like if any family was going to change their mind or any other circumstances were going to come up. It's just a kind of piece for us to say, oh, this is finally completed. We don't have to go through this process anymore. The process is done, and it's been decided what's happening with them. So it's always a kind of a peace of mind as far as us as the parents, adoption parents. So.
Yeah. Thank you. And so attachment, you've had attachment journeys with both of your girls. And could you share some of the attachment challenges your children may have had, how you've been intentional in meeting your children's attachment needs, and where their attachments are now? There's your dog.
Just trying to be attached right now. So.
We're also the proud parents of 2 dogs.
The dog, sure.
Our daughter Brianna was quite fortunate that the first couple of months of her life, she and her mom were living in a women's treatment center. So she did have that time with her mom, and the bonding and the security and the safety. Unfortunately, when her mom finished treatment and they left the area, there was a lot of things that happened in a very, very short period of time to her. There was some abandonment, there was neglect. It was bad. So she came to us at 13 months. She was not willing to attach. It took 4 months for her to make eye contact with us. She was just very quiet, very shy. I remember taking her for visits with her mom, and even her mom commenting, "What are you doing to my daughter? Because she won't even look at me." She was, disengaged from her mom, wouldn't engage with us. And fortunately, we were able to recognize it as an attachment, injury to her, that way that she just wouldn't even look at you. So we became very intentional. We had other foster kids in the house who were at school during the day. So during the day, I was able to give her that full one-on-one attention. She was the only child here in the daytime. I had a booster seat that I put on the floor, and so we would eat lunch, knees to knees kind of thing, with that direct face to face. Even if she wouldn't make the eye contact, there was still that body contact together. I did a lot of skin to skin snuggling with her. She was young. She was only 13 months. There was a lot of still rocking and cuddling and stuff, and trying to take her back to those days when she felt safe. Some of the other things,
even though she was so young, the 13 months, it's still amazing how much attachment they need at that point, right? So when there is so much transition and bouncing back and forth from different houses and seeing your mom and then not seeing your mom, being just a situation she was in, an environment she was in, was quite traumatic for her during that time, right? So it did take a while initially from when we first had her to kind of get attached to us, and just as Kathy was older, the one-on-ones was really important for her. It was really what she needed at that time. So
I know that she'd been here a couple of months. We actually took in a newborn, and literally he was 2 days old. So he required a lot of attention, and she wouldn't go to bed. She wouldn't leave me. She wouldn't take her eyes off of me. And we only kept him in the house for 2 days because that little girl would not go to sleep. The only way that I managed to get any rest was taking her out to the couch and tucking her behind my legs where I could keep her safe while still keeping an eye on the newborn baby. And it was really amazing. So, and again, that was about 2 or 3 months in. So she was attaching, but she still wasn't showing it. But she was not willing to let me care for anybody else. And it was really odd to see. You don't see that kind of behavior until you're living with these kids who go through that. Today we both have great relationship with her. She's 13. She's exploring all kinds of things that 13-year-old kids do. And I think we hear about most of it, there's the odd little secret I'm sure she has, but anything big, she talks to us about. She talks to us about things her friends are going through. And, and at the end of the day, she wants to come and throw her feet up into my lap and talk. Or she's quite a bit taller than me now. You know, she bends down and puts her head on my shoulder, and you know, like for those hugs. And she does take great joy in the fact that she's a lot taller. But it's nice. Like I can see the benefit of all that work that we did. You know, I threw out the rules. You know, I didn't say, you know, snack time is at 10 and we're going to have healthy fruit. It was if she looked like she was hungry, we ate, and we ate whatever was good and loving, and, you know, whatever would give her those kind of things.
We're looking at her friendships too, and she doesn't have a lot of friends, but their friends that she does have, she's really close to, really bonds really well to her close knit friends. So we're going through a bit of a transition right now with possibly changing schools, and that's kind of getting her a little bit upset and a little concerned about it, because she is so close to her friends, and to having to possibly lose her friendships because just the school structure is changing. It's kind of a big transition. So we're trying to reassure her with that and just give her confidence. You know, it's still a year and a half away. It's still a long time. So don't want to be upset for a year and a half about it, but we need to just kind of prepare you slowly, and maybe you'll be able to see that at a school first ahead of time. And so we just kind of wanted to prepare her for little life events that happen.
So she's already looking a year and a half ahead, and anticipating the shift that will mean to her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need
Do you feel like that might be one of the ways that some of the early attachment stuff might be just sort of affecting her, even though she's got so much healthy attachment that might be, yeah.
It's another change into the unknown.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I mean, she did. And it's funny because there was only like a 3-month period where she was with her mom, where life was bad and uncertain. And yeah, it's affected her. Whereas when anything new coming up,
She needs that regularity. Like
yeah,
consistency.
she's frightened of the unknown. It doesn't know what that's going to look like. It's funny though, when Dave was talking about her friendship, how she's got the core group. There's 4 girls, and you know, like they're just the girl gang, they call themselves. You know, the best girl gang. And when she was little though, I mean, you could take her anywhere and she would make a new best friend. And I remember, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 years old, it's like, mom, this is my new best friend. And like, you know, just wherever she went, she always just circled herself with a lot of people, but they were immediately her best friend. And then for a number of years, you know, probably grade 2 to grade 5, at least till grade 4, if not grade 5, she didn't really have any close friends. And so it was, you know, like kind of as she matured, and, you know, and those, like her own sense of what attachment is got stronger. And now she's like strong friendships, but a small.
What an interesting journey to see that showing up in her friendships, and how that's changed with her increasing attachment health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good.
It is good.
Plus, she
What-
got her biological siblings as well. From even though they live quite far away, there's been an occasion where Kathy and her had a chance to go up there and visit her sister in her environment, and we also took a trip to Vancouver Island and saw one of the other sisters there in her environment. So, and then they like to now keep in contact with each other through Zoom and Skype and stuff. So that's what was really important for her too, to know a bit more about where she came from and her family and stuff. Because she always kind of questioned, like, why wouldn't she with her mom, especially with Violet, was able to see her mother for a while, where Brianna wasn't able to see her biological mother at all during the process. So.
And what about Violet's journey with attachment? When she came to you, what did you see any impacts of early disruption in her attachment, and how has that affected her as she's grown older?
I didn't really see so much with her. Like, I think because her mom had been doing quite well during her early childhood, she didn't come to us with those kind of trauma injuries. And even from our first respite, like when if a child has been removed in foster care, generally it's some social worker comes, they take the child, they drive away, and then they take the child to a foster home. I didn't have that with Violet. With Violet, when I met her, I went to her home with her mom. And I spent time there while her mom told me all her things. You know, she was only 7 months old. So, but it's like, here's her favorite blanket. This is how she likes to be held. And so then her mom packed her into her car seat, and then I could walk away and put her in my car. So, you know, like, so she had those gentle transitions where there was bonds being able to be formed under the safety of her mom. So we were really fortunate that way.
Went a lot smoother really than Brianna did.
Yeah,
Because of that, because it was a smoother transition.
that permission giving, it was really, really important. And blessed that her biological mom suffers from, you know, addictions, from problems with the justice system, mental health issues. But she's a good mom. She just can't parent, unfortunately. And so she was able to put her child first with those transition pieces, you know, even though it was just supposed to be respite. She was lucky. We were lucky that she understood that.
And as Violet has grown older, do you see any attachment issues or any attachment strengthening that you've needed to address?
We do periodically have to check in. She has a hard time sharing us with anybody. And as she's gotten older, we've discovered she has a hard time sharing friends with other friends. She likes to be the only one. And she does create those scenarios where she's not getting enough attention, or you know, as much as she feels she needs. And so she will create scenarios where she gets more, or she will tell people that she doesn't get enough. And you know, and that's fair. You need more. You need more. You know, and so we do try and spend that extra time with her. It really has been more of she needs one-on-one. She doesn't like a group setting. She likes a one-on-one, and she doesn't like to have to compete for that attention.
We like to do activities together with her, like Kathy and I will either her spend time with Violet or me or myself, like maybe we'll play games with her, board games or that kind of thing with her, like that's like Yahtzee and Uno and stuff. So a lot of times she does need that one-on-one and just doing activities like that. So maybe going out to the park or that kind of thing, or riding bikes, that kind of thing. So they really enjoy. She needs that kind of focused attention at sometimes. So
yeah, like mommy doing her hair,
yeah,
daddy taking her to the park, and showing her with makeup. She's 11, but she's been into hair and makeup since she's always been into hair and makeup, to be honest. She's my girly girl. And yeah, she likes those. She definitely likes those one-on-one activities. Whereas Brianna would be, I mean, she enjoys one-on-one, but she's like, woohoo, let's have the whole family go out and do things. So.
And as a family, as a whole family, what do you do to build attachment within your family?
This past weekend, for example, we went up to Kathy's parents and saw the grandma and grandpas and the cousins, and that's an important time for them to be able to bond with them as well. It's important for both Brianna and Violet and for the family as well, just to spend that time together, especially just after COVID and everything. It's been so difficult to kind of see extended family like that. So that is an important time for them, and they actually invited them back to have them back just by themselves with the grandma and grandpa and spend time with each other with them. So, and they're thinking this time to even alternate it so that when they have Violet, they can kind of spend time in her interests, because she's now into sewing and different activities like that, where Brianna's more into outdoorsy, kind of going to camping and fishing and that kind of stuff, right? So they have different interests, so they're kind of thinking it might be best to kind of have them up there visiting and kind of concentrate more on what they want to do each individually as opposed to together. So you know, we're looking at that but they've been up there before too together, but sometimes they kind of get competitive as far as who gets the attention or the focus from the grandparents, right?
And I know, like, as an immediate family, we have been very intentional about putting foster kids into either with our family for care, or sometimes they've had bio family that's been good for care. Occasionally with respite, it's not a, we're not really big on them going to strangers' houses, but we have, so that we can take family vacations together. I remember even when the girls were really little and it still looked like Violet was going to be adopted with her brother, we put her into respite, and we took a trip with Brianna, down to Silverwood and spent that one-on-one time with just Brianna, letting her know. Because even though things weren't in place with her at that point, even we knew she was going to be growing up within our family, and just to give her those memories and those pictures and that time of just her alone. But we went back again the following year, when we, in our minds, not the ministry's minds, in the Violet was going to be with us forever. And so she was under 2 the first time that we took her on a big family vacation. Oh no, just over 2. Sorry, she was just over 2 when we took her on a big family vacation. When we finally got Brianna's placement, we celebrated that by going to Disneyland, and Violet came because she was going to be part of our growing up family. We've been Violet's celebration. She wanted to go somewhere warm, so we went to Mexico. We've taken the girls to Jamaica. So those really intentional time apart family vacations, and we don't take the foster kids on those. Even though we've had some really, we've had long-term foster kids that have been integral parts of our family for short periods, we've made that a point of those family vacations are family vacations.
And could you share some of your key attachment messaging to your children? I know I've heard you speak on this before, on the analogy to marriage. Could you talk a little bit about that messaging you've given to your children?
We've always let the girls know about their stories. They've always known they're adopted. They've always known some biological family. It varies over the years, and that they have their own story.
Yeah, and they share that with their friends too. Their friends both know that they were adopted, and so they're not something that they're ashamed about or anything like that. They know that's their life, and they share their life, so it's important.
And we've always made the point of letting them know that even though they weren't biologically born of us, that we're a family. Dave has his biological family of origin. I have a biological family of origin. We became a family through marriage. And our girls have their own biological families of origin, and they became part of the family through adoption. So it's very similar. Just because you're not born into the same family doesn't make, that means you can't be family.
Thank you. I always love hearing you talk about that analogy. Could you comment on some of the different ways you both have built attachment, how those might differ slightly from each other, and how they both factor in? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Some of the activities that I like to do with them, just to kind of grow that attachment with them, since I'm busy during the day with work and whatever. So when they come home after school or on weekends, typically it's activities. It might start with going to a park, playing that way, or I was biking with them to school as well, so we can have that time together. So teaching them road safety and helmets and the rules of the road and those types of things. It's always important to teach them the safety and basically just spending the time together, whether it be tobogganing or biking or finding what they really like to do and spend time doing that with them. So whether it be playing games or watching their favorite shows with them so they can discuss with us. Brianna's a big Harry Potter fan and really likes to talk about Harry Potter and knows everything. So,
but he's the Muggle. I'm a Harry Potter fan.
Yeah, so I watch it and try to encourage her. That's great. You have an interest, and she's into some different animes and stuff now. So just supportive on her likes and with her decisions. And where Violet's more into other things, so we kind of enjoy time with different things with her as well. So Kind of frees up Kathy too for the chores or whatever items that she's working on, so that it doesn't always have them kind of bugging at her. That gives her a bit of a break to concentrate on what she needs to by taking them and just spending that time with them, because that's the important part that they need in their life as well from their dad, is just that time to attach to each other, right? So
it's been wonderful because I am the primary caregiver. Like, I do the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. That was a choice that we made actually early on when we began fostering. Is I gave up my career and and became the full-time caregiver at home. But and Dave has done things like he's taken our girls to the father-daughter dance every year until COVID hit. Of course, that canceled that. But yeah, I mean, that was just something that he did. We as a family, we go out for parades and stuff.
we bought an RV this year, so expect to do lots of camping with them this year. So.
Just driving. But yeah, I mean, like, when a fair would come to town, like, I enjoy going and I'll go watch a parade and hang out for a little bit, but I'm not the all day, going back another day to do it again. Whereas Dave's done that. We've had a couple of other families and his brother who, where it's the dads will get to go and do that. Friday nights, there used to be a family swim at the Parkinson Rec Center. And there was a large group of dads that took their kids and did that kind of thing. So it's been wonderful just to see that, that Dave does that, meets them. He's the role model that will kind of set that up for the rest of their lives. And so teaching them that, it's been good.
Great. Thank you. So now we're moving on to openness. You guys have had some amazing, you've told me amazing stories around openness for your girls. So could you share some key thoughts about your journey with openness for your daughters? What does openness look like for each of them? And how has openness shifted or changed over the years? How do you support your daughters with openness? So first of all, the various players, I guess, in your openness contacts.
Yeah.
So, well, our oldest, Brianna, when she first moved in, we had quite a bit of contact with her mom. But by the time that she, within about a year, her mom had gone back out to some pretty heavy drug use, and we didn't have a lot of contact with her. We had, when it came close to finalizing our adoption time, we had looked into doing an openness agreement, but her mom had disappeared at that time. So we never did have an openness agreement signed. We had one that had been talked about, but never signed with her mom. Over the years, we've had contact with other extended biological family, and I'm really grateful for that. Early on, we managed to contact her grandfather, who lives up north, her grandmother who lives on the island and was raising two of her siblings. And we even had the opportunity to go out and visit with them a couple summers ago, I guess about 4 summers ago now. And that's led to some really good, solid. Brianna and her sister have managed to keep contact. I mostly do now. Her sister is 23, so there's a big age difference. So as she navigates her young adulthood and some of her bad choices, I'm main contact there. But her brother Charlie, we attended his grad, up north. It was kind of exciting for her to go there, because when we went there, it wasn't just her brother Charlie. Her grandpa was there. She had her uncles were there. She has a cousin that we didn't even know about, was there. She was just a little baby at the time. And so, yeah, being able to go and not only hang out with them at the grad and have Charlie introducing everybody to his little sister was wonderful. It was really empowering for her. But then we went out for lunch afterwards. And I sat at a table, and the weirdest thing in the world, things you don't think about, her favorite drink is root beer. And we sit at a table, and it's like, I'll have a milk, I'll have an orange pop, I'll have a root beer, root beer, root beer, root beer. Like, it was like, I had coffee, somebody had milk, somebody had orange pop, and everybody else ordered a root beer. Those are things I never would have known. Nobody thinks to say, oh, we drink root beer when we go to restaurants. But to her, that meant something. It's like, oh, that's where I get my love of root beer from. It's a family thing. Those things mean a lot. We very early on had contact with the one sister who was adopted. And then because of some issues happening in their family, we didn't have contact for a number of years, but we started that back up about 4 years ago. And that's been wonderful. The girls are closer in age. Her sister's only 4 years older than her. So, they do have more in common. And so it's been kind of fun exploring that. We get along really well with their parents or with her parents. So we have extended our family to include them. They're not just Brianna's family, they're our family. Her sister's been to our home. She was at our home just after Christmas break this year and spent a week and a half with us. So it's been really good that way.
And Violet's quite a bit different. With her she has basically three main contacts. She had a biological brother, as well as her biological mother and grandmother. And it's changed quite a bit since we first got her, because at the very beginning, her biological mom was kind of very much part of her life still. During the transition as we were fostering and so on, she was really part of her life then. And grandma lived not too far away. But since then, there was times where where biological mother wasn't available, so they went for a couple of years without being able to see her. But grandma and brother were always available, so we were able to have the brother as respite for weekends or whatever, so they could bond with each other. But then last couple of years, the grandmother has now moved out to Ontario, so now that's not been like, occasionally we'd have Violet would go there for weekends or whatever to be able to spend time with the grandmother. Unfortunately, that bond got broke, that visitation.
It's just different now.
Just different now.
Now it's phone calls.
It's still phone calls, but it's different than meeting and spending one-on-one with, right? So it's a little different that way. And now again, at this point, the biological mother, there's no contact with each. So it really changes based on the time of where the other family is at, right? So we have to make adjustments depending on how the other people are doing.
It does. And I know we actually don't have an openness agreement for Violet either. When it came time to do that, we had already developed relationships. Again, through the time that we were fostering, those relationships were developed. And her mom just said, you know what? Like, I don't need one. I don't want anybody obligated. I want this just to continue to be as natural and organic as possible. Because we had that. We'd had the privilege of having that foster relationship first, that we were able to just organically let it grow. And like Dave said, her mom was incarcerated for quite a while. And so then it was letters. That's all that we had for a long time. And then she got out and she managed to maintain her clean time. She maintained a healthy residence. And that actually, it grew to the point where I let my baby go alone over to her biological mom's house, right? Like, we call them tummy mummies. Biological mom sounds cold, but her tummy mummy. And, so I'd drop her off and I'd go back and pick her up an hour later. Her 10th birthday, her tummy mummy said, would it be okay if I took her out for lunch? And I thought, okay. It was a big step, and a little part of me was scared inside letting my baby do that. But they went out for lunch. They walked around downtown. They shopped. They had ice cream. Her mom's been to Christmas concerts.
And it's appreciated on that side too. We can see that too, because when she knows she's been using, she doesn't even try to contact. She has that respect that, I'm at a place right now where I can't see her, right? So important too.
Yeah, we don't have that with Brianna's mom. Brianna's mom wants to, she's very inconsistent. We'll go a year without hearing from her. In fact, our Brianna just had her 13th birthday, and we got a text from her the day after Brianna's birthday, wishing her a happy birthday. And Brianna's attitude was, well, she was only a day late, which was sad. It's sad that it's at that point, but she's inconsistent. Whereas, Violet's mom, when we don't hear from her, we know why. And it's been unfortunately, she started to slip again in the summer, and now we haven't heard from her since well before Christmas. I keep tabs on her, so I know she's doing okay because she's here in town. But she won't push that. She won't ask unless she's in a good place. So it's nice that I can trust if she says, if I get, a message from her, a call from her that says, hey, Kathy, like, is it maybe, can we all go for lunch together? I know she's doing okay, because she won't ask if she's not doing okay. So it's been nice, and again, our family is bigger. When grandma got married, we went to the wedding, all of us. It wasn't just the kids that went. We all went to the wedding, and we were embraced by all the, like her brothers. Grandma's brothers were out there, so Violet's great uncles, and she had an aunt and an uncle there, and we were greeted with hugs by everybody because we were family.
And Violet was the flower girl.
She was.
Yeah. Or grandma,
So it's nice. Like, I mean, your family doesn't have to end at your own front door. And it's been, I think it's a blessing. It's nice too to know where your children come from, the struggles that they may face. I know that Brianna, unfortunately, in her family, we're learning that there's a lot of mental illness that we weren't aware of. Her sister is going through that. And part of her mental illness, she's now 17 and reached out to her biological family members who her family chose not to have contact with, and has dived as a it started when she was 16, as a 16-year-old troubled teen, diving into friendships with some unhealthy adults. And it spiraled, and it's not gotten any better. She spiraled worse, and she's getting the wrong kinds of support from the family. Whereas, Brianna's known these people since she was little. She knows who they are. She also knows their strengths and their weaknesses. And she hasn't had to hide the relationships from us. I know when her sister began to form those relationships, she hid them from her parents because her parents had said no to them. So I think that's really, really important.
Plus, to know their heritage too through their extended family there too, right? So there is some First Nation portion to Violet's heritage, so that's an important part for her to kind of realize that and understand that and be aware of that history and that they have. So.
And with the ups and downs of some of those relationships, like you mentioned, how Brianna's mom was a day late in for her birthday, and Violet has had times where she's had strength of contact. There's just lots of contact with her birth mom that's been healthy, even on her own, healthy, with her spending time. And when her mom then is not doing well, and that relationship has to shift for a season, how do you see that impacting? How do you support Violet or Brianna with those things?
With Brianna, it's been the roller coaster that she's always ridden. There's never been any consistency, and it changes from day to day. So her support with that has not changed. She knows to keep a very healthy boundary at all times. With Violet, though, she's amazing. When her tummy mummy started to slip this last time, I didn't tell her until she asked. And maybe I should have. I was a little afraid to, because it had been so good for so long. And so when she finally asked, she said, "Hey, Mom, we haven't heard from her for a long time. What's up?" And so I was able to say, "You know what, hon? She started using drugs again." And, so we had a little cry, a little sadness. Our family believes in prayer. We prayed for her, and we do. And so she'll ask me, "Have we heard from my tummy mummy?" No, we haven't. But that's okay. But she's not afraid to ask. Neither one of them are afraid to ask.
Mm-hmm. And
we don't lie. Like, that's, the story has changed as they've gotten older. Just it's gone from mommy's in a bad place right now, or mommy's not doing well.
They're not making the best decisions.
Yeah. When they were really little, it's, what? Mommy's making bad decisions right now. To now, we don't tell Violet, Mommy's making bad decisions. We say, you know what, she's using drugs again. So that she, because it's important, I think, for these guys to understand it's not them.
Yeah.
We're not hearing from them because of you.
Yeah.
And we're not hearing from them because they don't love you. Right? Drugs has a whole different handle on things. But yeah, we keep the doors open. The doors are always open with biological family and with our kids. No secrets.
She really enjoyed the time when she was able to go to her grandma's house when she lived like half hour, 45 minutes away. She would be able to go there like on a Friday and spend a couple days there and then pick her up. And that was, she really enjoyed it while she was able to have that while she was in the same province until she moved away. But I think she really misses that.
She does, because then it was grandma's little princess for the weekend.
What a lot they added to their lives, hey? Just having
they really, and they still do. They still do. They still add, even if it's little bits. Obviously Violet's got some family that adds quite a bit to her life, but
it's amazing how Violet too is around the foster kids as well. Like she tries to help out when she can, and she's really quite helpful with the kids and spends time with them and encourages them and looks out for them. So it's really important to see how she gets along with them as well, and she can be a big sister to them.
And Brianna does well with our crazy kids. Our little duo that we have right now, they're quite energetic and bounce from one thing to the next in their minds. And she's actually better with them than Violet is, which is the first time that we've seen her really shine.
And they're still in contact even when the fosters go back to family or get adopted. They're still wanting to keep those friendships. And little girl who she's been adopted for 3 years now, and they're still with Skype and talking with each other and growing together. So
yeah.
Do you think that your girls' journey with Openness gives them more understanding and empathy for the foster children that are in your home?
I think it plays a big part for sure, because they know the transition that the foster kids are going to be going through because they went through that themselves, right? So they know that the foster kids here do have parents, and they know that they might be making bad decisions or being a bad part of their life, right? So able to, I think, be empathetic with the kids that come in here and are kind of upset and going through the transitions of being away from their parents or whatever, because they've been there, they lived it, right? So
I think they're really good too about letting our foster kids know it's okay to love more people than just your mom and dad, right? When the foster kids, as they get a little older and they see that our girls have their biological families and their places of origin, and that they're allowed to love those people and that we love those people, so that when their own parents are calling and their own parents are making mistakes, we still allow love for people who are making mistakes. Right. So
great messaging.
I think, I really think the kids are so beneficial in allowing, because when you have children living in your home when they're little, they fall in love with us too. And some kids struggle with that, feeling love for us, and almost feel like it's a disloyal to their own parents. And I think Brianna and Violet are really good at allowing those kids to have more love instead of less love. That makes sense.
Thank you for sharing that. Those are really good thoughts. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Indigenous and cultural considerations. Do your girls have Indigenous or other cultural considerations that you support them with? And have you cared for other children in your home with these needs?
Brianna doesn't have any other ties to an Indigenous culture, and her family doesn't really have any strong culture. They're kind of behind 57, which is what I am too. So, we make up our own traditions as we go. Violet isn't bloodline-wise Indigenous, but her grandmother was married to an Indigenous fellow that family was actually very prominent within their band and very active culturally. Grandma lived on the reserve with her husband. So Violet, was raised, well, not raised, when Violet was at Grandma's, she was very much exposed to that. We've still tried to keep that part of it as well. I know that when her grandpa's mom died, and they were caring for her in their home, one of the traditions from their band is the 3 days of sitting with the deceased, and allowing them to transition to the next world. So, I took Violet for not the full 3 days, but I did take her for one day, and we sat with the family. Um, you know, she's extremely blonde, blue-eyed, didn't matter. We sat with the family because she was the great grandchild for this woman, and explained that to her. When her grandmother got married, the round dance and stuff like that. They had some of that culture in there, so she appreciates that. It is part of my heritage as well, so we do keep that little bit a part of it. And we've also been blessed to have some kids in our home. Right now, we have two Métis children. We've had other Métis children. We've had oh status. I was trying to think of the word that just escaped me there. We've had status Indigenous children living in our home, and so we've partaken in a lot of different things. I've made ceremonial dresses for the kids. My girls had skirts because we attended ceremony, so they had ribbon skirts. I've made drums. I've made rattles.
Made bannock.
Oh yeah, we made lots of bannock. We've attended powwows. As a family, and with our children, we've spent a lot of time with some of our foster children's families, and been able to celebrate each family's heritage. Even last summer we were out in Alberta, and we had no Indigenous children with us.
No, but they had an event out there that were with the First Nation society out in Calgary, and they had the full regalia and the presentations and stuff, and it was quite amazing.
We went and spent the day there because it's important. Like I think even for us to keep culturally aware at all times, even if there's nobody within our home who quote requires that we attend those things as we're required to do with our foster kids who are Indigenous. It's important. It's good. And the Indigenous community has been nothing but welcoming. They've been amazing. I remember the very first powwow I showed up to with a couple of twin 5-year-olds and a 2-year-old, and I was scared because it was the first time I'd been to a powwow on my own with being the oldest person. My dad used to take me to them, but as being the person bringing the children. And we were scooped up. They were obviously not my kids, and some of the women there recognized probably what the situation was, and they found us a table with some other families, and they made sure that we were introduced all around. I had teenagers who were coming and talking to me about things that were culturally, that maybe as a white woman I wouldn't know about the children. And never did I feel judged. Never have I felt judged attending any of those things. I'm quite well known with both the Métis Association here and our local Friendship Center because they've been so warm and welcoming. I love attending their teachings, attending their cultural gatherings, just their parenting groups. They've been wonderful.
Yeah, we've gone to sessions learning about the history and things like that as well, and the consequences of things in the past that have happened, and so it's been good for us to have that training as well.
Yeah, we've gone to Roots celebrations where they have campouts, and learning how to put up the teepees, and and just to be able to go and explore that with with our kids, whether it's our girls or with foster kids, it's amazing. And anybody who's got children in their home who have an Indigenous background and might feel worried about being the blonde-haired, blue-eyed person showing up, don't be. The Indigenous people in our country have had a really rough go of it. There's been a lot of things that have happened that are horrifying, and yet they still embrace with love, with openness, and with a willingness to share their knowledge. And it's amazing.
We had a sibling group of 3 here when they were quite young, and now it's been 12 years or something since they've gone, yet they
Yeah.
they still remember us and think of us and contact us once in a while. So, and they had an older set of teens who are now in their 20s. So,
Yeah.
it's been amazing to see their growth as well. And they, even though we didn't have them for a very long time, I guess we made enough of a
They're
influence
ours.
in their life that they really appreciated the time that they did have with us. So.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks for all you've shared. Thank you that you have shared around culture and how you've made that a part of your family life.